Hi everyone, this is Dawn Winters and you are watching the Writing for Doctoral Studies series. This video is about parallel structures. This is a challenge that a lot of people have in their writing. I'm going to talk a little bit about what they are, what this means, and then we're going to work on how to fix some issues with parallel structures. So, for the most part, you're going to want to consider parallel structures as like parallel lines. There are two lines or two or more lines that are going in the same direction, that are angled in the same manner, and that don't change no matter how long they go on. Or, as I like to consider it, scales that are equally balanced. So, when parallelism works, it's when two or more words or phrases or clauses in a series within a sentence are grammatically aligned. Now, what is a clause? A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. It's also known as a sentence, but you can have a dependent clause that has a subordinator, as I'll talk about in my types of sentence video. So, whenever I go to the store. Well, that's not a complete sentence, but it's a clause. I go to the store is a subject, or I is a subject, go to the store is a verb, and whenever is my subordinator. But a clause, and especially a series of subordinate clauses, can happen in a sentence multiple times. So, let's look at some sentences before we get started on how to fix them. So the first one, your papers should be written in APA style, including a references page, and turn them in on Friday. Now, this might be fine verbalized, but we're going to see that in writing it's got some parallelism issues. The conference topics include building a better resume, leader-follower relationships, and the use of standard English in presentations. Again, these may sound like a list of topics, but they're not parallel. Eating too much of a healthy food can be as harmful as not to eat enough. Now, that probably sounds a little bit wonky to you when I say that out loud. So we're going to review how to fix that. That is a binary parallel structure that we're going to look at. The team spent the day arguing with one another rather than work together to find common solutions. Again, your grammatical ear, if you're a native speaker of English, may have caught that. If you're a non-native speaker of English, you might not have caught that. But parallel structures can affect both native speakers and non-native speakers of English. So don't worry if you didn't catch it, and don't feel too comfortable if you did catch it. The last one, a university is not only responsible to its students, but also professors and alumni as well. That might sound okay to you, but it's not parallel. So let's fix these mistakes. So here I've highlighted in this orangey red color what words we're looking at. And these are imperatives. These are words that are instruction-oriented words. We have starting off with be written, and then we have including, and then we have turn them, like turn them in. So it also, by the way, if you watched my video on passive voice, or you should watch my video on passive voice, these are passive voice constructions, and passive voice usually poses a problem for parallelism. One of them has an ing ending. That's a continuous construction. It means that it's going on, it's continuing. And then the third item is a true imperative. Turn them in on Friday. You don't have to use you. You is really implied there. So find a way that you want to make it parallel. I like to center, for at least an issue like this, center on the subject of the sentence. These are all adjectival markers, okay? So the subject is your paper, and these are markers that are describing what you're doing with your paper, right? So your papers should be written in APA style, include a references page, and be turned in on Friday. So all of these, written, include, and be turned in, all of these are adjectival markers that describe the paper. So this sentence recognizes that you're still using passive voice. It takes away that ing ending, which was really problematic for our parallel construction, and it modifies the command item to make it an adjectival term. And then it makes a sentence parallel by also always describing the sentence. This one, conference topics include building a better resume, leader-follower relationships, and the use of standard English in presentations. So I've highlighted some of our wonky areas. There's an ing ending in the first item. It indicates a gerund pattern. So if you're not familiar what a gerund is, it's when a verb can act as a noun. So walking is my favorite pastime, or running is a good form of exercise. You're not using running as a verb like I am running. You're using it as a noun, which means that you're using a gerund. Moving on, the lack of a verb in the second item. So if you're starting off your list with verbs, you're going to want to continue the list with verbs. And then, or gerunds, so to speak. And then finally, you want to make it parallel. I center on the first item and then build a pattern off of that. That's a great way to combat your parallelism. If you see that ing ending in the first item, you can use that as a pattern. So conference topics include building a better resume, developing leader-follow relationships, and using standard English in presentations. So if you look at the difference between the two, we've added some words, but we've also made it parallel. So I know exactly what I'm doing for each conference presentation, or I know exactly what I'm getting into with each of the conference topics. So all of the items are gerund-led, which means I'm using an ing to end all of them. And it is a parallel sentence now. And again, we're using noun phrasing techniques for this one. Eating too much of a healthy food can be as harmful as not to eat enough. This is a binary parallel structure. It has some of the same issues as the first one did. So ing ending, we're starting off with that gerund again. And then can be as. So a lot of binary parallels have that the parallel connector, right? So you're going to want the first side of the scale or the first side of the sentence to match the second side. Eating too much of a healthy food can be as harmful as not eating enough. So develops all items for an ing ending. It builds the sentence by adding the continuous ending to both halves, and it makes the sentence parallel by balancing it out. The teams spend the day arguing with one another rather than work together to find common solutions. By now, you should be an old hat at this. You see arguing, you see work. You're going to want to make both of those equal. And again, look for those parallel markers rather than. That shows you that you're going to be comparing two unlike things. Chocolate cake is delicious rather than carrot cake or something like that. The team spent the day arguing with one another rather than working together to find common solutions. So now you have a nice binary equal sentence. You know, and I'm using probably a lot of mathematical terms that you might not be accustomed to hearing when discussing language, but grammar really is the mathematics of language. You're using small items, you're building it up. It's a lot of mathematical equation type thinking when you're thinking about constructing a really good, solid sentence. I think we've got one more. A university is not only responsible to its students, but also professors and alumni as well. So there's a preposition set up to its, and then there's a parallel connector of is not only and then but also. This comes up a lot, and this is a very simple sentence, a very simple use of this construction, but you may find a really complex or a really lengthy sentence that uses this construction. The longer and more complex the sentence is, the more difficult it is to maintain that parallel structure. So I'm using simple examples, but the same idea applies to a lengthier sentence. So really be careful and don't get mired in those long sentences without really with forgetting the building blocks of what you're doing. A university is not only responsible to its students, but also to its professors and alumni as well. So you're just adding a to its to balance out those sentences. Okay, so if you find that you're having issues with your parallel structures, if you find someone is pointing them out, the Writing Center can offer a great help with this video. Other writing tools can really lend you a hand. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.